All right. Now I'm going to put out a few videos in this little mini series of how to start a retic breeding business, but I'm going to do it at four different price points: 10,000, 25,000, 50,000, and 100,000. So this is basically what I would get at those price points. Now, keep in mind, I don't recommend you get a bunch of retics because you think you're just going to be able to quit your 9 to 5 and make millions of dollars. I'm not selling you that idea. All I'm saying is, okay, so if I had $10,000, and keep in mind, this is for monetary gain. I want to make that clear. This isn't for like, say, I like retics, but I also want to make some money. Um, and I want to make my money back plus some to be able to grow my collection, grow the business. What would I do? Me and Spencer did a long video. He did a big breakdown on the costs and stuff. And so I wanted to kind of come up with some ideas of maybe, some cheaper ways to kind of start a business that I can pretty much guarantee you're going to be profitable. So this is the first one: how to start a retic breeding business on a budget of $10,000. So the first thing you need to do is get two uh, thermostats. I recommend two Herbstat Pros. That's going to cost roughly $800. So get those. They're awesome. That'll be plenty. You'll be able to run your cages and any incubators and probably racks too. That'll give you 8 probes. So you can run 8 cages. You can run some stuff off that. That's plenty. Two 4-foot cages. I looked up some prices. Reptile Basics has some pretty decent prices. So you're looking at around 650 to 700 for two 4-footers. If you get those, you should be pretty set. I didn't check their shipping. I think they kind of have like free shipping or something. Then I looked up some other 6-foot cages. They're all over the place. 6-foot cages are all over the place. It's crazy. But Animal Plastics has some pretty decent 6-footers for not that much. They were like $600. Yeah, so we're at 800 for the Herpstats, 700 for the two 4-footers, and you're looking at about 800 for three 6-footers. So we're talking about a 3.2 breeding collection. Very small. That leaves you with an additional 6,700 to spend on your miscellaneous stuff and your snakes. So some heat tape, some snake hooks. If you don't have enough freezer space, you might need to get a small freezer, so that might be a couple $100. But you should have at least $6,000. We'll just say 700 for miscellaneous, heat tapes, hooks, blah blah blah, some food out the gate. So some food, and then so we'll say 6,000 left for snakes. I recommend 1.1 of pures, whatever locality you're into. I can tell you, jams are hard sell. If you got, let's say you got 3,000 to spend on a pair of 1.1s. Well, 3,000 right now, they won't get you apocalyptos, but they would get you like a pair of F1 Ternates. They'd get you a pair of Mindanaos. They would get you a pair of Halmaharas. They definitely can probably get you a pair of Salayers, get you a pair of Kiowatis, get you a pair of Kalatoas, Medus, Karampas. They're a little bit out of that price range, but you're definitely looking at being able to get a pair of F1s. Definitely want to be able to make some pure stuff. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. So that's 1.1 of your 5 snakes. So now you're looking at a 1.2. Now you're looking at a 1.2 of morphs, basically. What I recommend is, for your females, 2 hets. Het albinos, preferably het purple. Het, I would just go het purple. You should be able along, and I would recommend, this is also for dwarf and super dwarf, which I forgot to mention. It's just kind of implied. I don't recommend you start a breeding business with mainlands. I mean, if you want to knock yourself out, you're going to need a hell of a lot more than $10,000. Not for the snakes, just for the cages and the food and everything else. That's where your expenses are going to be. You can get pretty much mainlands for free. There's enough people trying to give away adults. You can just jump on any Craigslist and go get a bunch of adult retics for next to nothing. So I would recommend minimal of 50% Superdorf het purple, 2 females. If you can luck out and get a Sunfire het or a Tiger het, or try to get a second gene in there of some type, get a second gene in there, because if you shop around long enough, you might be able to get yourself a couple 2-year-olds, or maybe if you're lucky, you might even be able to get like somebody might let go of some 75%, like a 75% Kalatoa het purple. Not a lot of those out there. Actually, my buddy has some. Come to think of it, I think they're either het purple or double het snow. I forget. So they are actually out there. And then for the male, if you should have enough money, because you should be able to get, you got 3,000 for this trio. So you're looking at 1,000 a piece. So you should be able to get the 50%ers for pretty cheap at this point. The only way you're paying $1,000 for a 50% Superdorf het purple female is if it's got some age. So, and if it's got some age, it's got 2 years on it, that's going to shave 2 years off your project, then yeah, you got it. You're good. So spend the money. And then take your last 1,000, which it should be more like 1,500, and try to get a visual male. Shop around, see who's got a purple male, and go from there. And the reason I'm saying this is because I'm not doing this from best case scenario. I'm saying if you got $10,000 and you want to start a retic breeding business to make money. And the funny thing is, like, nobody just makes cheap, affordable purple Superdorfs. And I don't know why, because it's probably the smartest thing you could do with how prices are coming down. Get into that sub 1,000 range on these purple Superdorfs, especially at 50%. And then, you'll make your money, like, for sure. So if you can get the purple male, if you can luck out purple tiger, purple sun, like, if you can get a double visual, that's better. Chances are you can't, but at least go with the visual purple male, and you should be able to track something down for about 1,500 pretty easily. And don't worry about the snow part. There's a ton of snow stuff out there anyways, and a lot of purple Superdorfs have kind of a snow look to them anyways. So I wouldn't even worry about that. Just as long as it's purple, don't worry about the snow part. Chances are it'll end up proving out head anery anyways. And that'll put you in a position where you can make a clutch of pure whatever you choose, and then 2 clutches of albinos and purples and hets. Let's say you hit on the clutch, you get 10 eggs of the pures. They all averaging, say, $1,000 a piece. So there's your 10K. Let's say you, for some reason, they're not. You're only going $500 a piece, which there's no reason they'd ever be that cheap. But there's 5K. And then let's say you get 10 eggs from each one of your hets. We'll say low end, that would give you 10 purples and 10 het purples, both clutches. So let's say they drop significantly for some reason, and the hets are only worth $250. But so you got 2,500 right there, and then you got 10 albinos, right? Let's say they're only $750. Right there's your 10,000. And your clutch of pures, chances are they're going to be about 1,000 each. Well, let's say they're not. Let's say they're only $500. That puts you at 15,000. You've got all your money back, plus an additional 5,000 off your original investment. And I'm not going to count time. And we can add in food, but since these guys are Superdorfs and you're all in, it's not really going to cost much to feed 5. And with your electric, it's not really going to cost much. This is such a small collection that your monthly cost is going to be very minuscule. It's going to be like, I don't know, $100, not even $50 a month. That's what this is going to cost you with everything. That's what I would do if I was starting a retic business with only $10,000. 1.1 pures, a purple male, and 2 het females, at least 50% Superdorf. You will make stuff that people want, stuff that's pretty, and you can you'll be technically in the black. The big important part of this is to try to find, on the pures, you're probably going to go with baby, so it might take a little bit. But like, let's say you luck out and get a pair of 2-year-olds for 3K, and you wait till somebody's desperate, somebody needs money, somebody's getting out. You can do that. You can find those deals. But the big thing is to get some 2-year-old 50% Kalatoa het purples or het snows and get a male, because you can raise the male up in a year, and when those females are ready to go, the male will be ready to go as well. So now you're in a position to make pretty albinos, which for some reason no one's just cranking out pretty purple super dwarfs. As soon as somebody starts doing that, you're gonna see this major shift, because eventually, like, some of the new people are gonna be like, why, instead of making this like super high end stuff, why don't I just make some like 50 to 75% purples, and just make a lot of them and sell them to people that want pets at my local reptile shows and on Morph Market. So I do think you're going to see this mindset shift of being like, well, I could just make what people want. They don't necessarily want these super high-end animals. A lot of people just want a pet. So as more breeders come in and they start to understand that there's the pet market is so much bigger than the breeder market, they're going to start breeding for the pet market and get them at an affordable level and just make a bunch of them. And with this $10,000 breeding program, it sets you up to make your own visual purples. You got your pures, you can crank them out, plus you can breed them into the purples. Now you got your 75% hets, and you can keep the process going. So now, then you just got to raise up the 75%ers, and now you're cranking out 75% Kalatoa or Super Dwarf purples. Once you have that money in, that's when you can start to expand. But this is a really affordable way if you're starting a business. And that's what I want to emphasize. This is strictly business, which I don't really recommend, but I did want to put something out there to say, okay, for 10,000, 25,000, 50,000, 100,000, what would you do from a business perspective? Like, if I had $10,000 to spend on retics, I wouldn't do this, because I would just, I don't even know what I'd buy, to be honest. I hardly see anything out there that I want. I don't know. I would probably not buy retics, honestly. I'd buy like some stupid venomous stuff that I don't need. That's what I would spend the $10,000 on. But you want to start a business for 10K, you can do it. You can do it. You can have your cost per month $100 with a collection this size, and potentially in one season bringing in 15 to 20,000. You could be in the black after your first breeding season. So I hope that was helpful. I'm going to work on the $25,000, $50,000, and $100,000 videos. I'll be putting them out as well.